Good morning, everybody. This is the Rabid Hedgehog, and this is going to be my ride and review of the Breakout 114 2018 model. As you can tell, some big changes for the Breakout. It's not as long as it used to be, not as wide as it used to be, much more narrow. Now includes a 3.5 gallon gas tank versus the old 5. Has this beautiful LED light that comes straight off the live wire, basically. Still has the same 240 rear end, same 21-inch front wheel that's thin. But with this new platform, does it change the dynamic of how it rode? Because I was not much of a fan of the ride of the stock Breakout of last generation. But is this one changed because of this new chassis? Now, as you can see, Milwaukee 8 114, so this will have the same kind of setup as the Screaming Eagle version of the Breakout from last generation. That was a 110. Let me go ahead and bump this up here real quick for the suspension. It's a little bit bigger than probably what it's set for. Alrighty. We'll jump up here and kind of look at the controls real fast. Now this one, I kind of mentioned this too. This one took one of the heaviest downsizings. It's 35 pounds lighter than its previous generation. So much lighter, much more narrow, different seating position it feels like. I mean, I don't feel as far back as I did on the other one. I feel more lean forward on this one already. So looking at it, of course, you got your kill switch, start, hazard, right. This is your information screen, which now you have a 2.14 inch somewhere in there LCD screen, kind of like the Street Bob. Of course, you got your miles per hour. There's going to be a gear counter up here, odometer, fuel. Then you can select 2 trip odometers, remaining fuel, clock, and tachometer. Down here, you have your turn signals, your left, your right, your fuel, your bright, as you can see, and then your neutral, oil, ABS, security, tire pressure monitoring system, cruise control, service engine, battery, and fog lamp. Of course, being that this is going to be used for different packages basically in the future, I can almost bet you a few of those will be added in as soon as they start updating these. Go ahead and start it up. Sounds really good. And we'll take her for a spin here. Now, just like the Ft.Lb that's got the 114, the engine pulls immediately off the line. That's got decent power. Unlike the Ft.Lb though, this one does not have an inverted fork. And also like the previous generation Screaming Eagle version, or CVO version, depending on what you want to call it, of the Breakout. So there's some changes. Also single disc brake up front, not a double disc, just like the older one. Now the older one had a single disc on the stock and a double disc on the basically the CVO version. Alright, still got that tremendous pull. Definitely feel more compact on this bike, and it's kind of weird because the way this breather is and the coil right here on the left side, my leg brushes up against them trying to get to the tank, so I can't actually fully grab the tank. I have to more sit out like this to stay comfortable, because I'm kind of getting to the point where I'm digging into things, and that doesn't feel so great. Mirrors offer very good visibility. Engine pulls really good if you give it the RPM range. However, if I was to be in top gear, barely any pull at all. That's one thing I have noted for every single one of these Milwaukee 8s so far in these new Softails, is that they're definitely treating overdrive as 6th gear on this bike. So you're not going to go anywhere very quick that way, basically. Now, overall, it's still a lazy turner compared to the other Softails I've ridden so far. The Fat Bob, the Street Bob, and now the Lowrider, which I'll have a video up on that here pretty soon, if I don't already have it up by now. It definitely does not turn as quick as those other bikes, and it definitely doesn't turn as fast as my Night Rod. As you know, the Night Rod also is a bike that carries the 240 rear end on it as well, but it does not feel this lazy. This bike here has kind of a lazy feel to it, just like its older counterpart. Now, here's the bigger test though, is how far can it get into a corner? The old Breakout was wider, and it seemed at 30 some miles an hour, about 34, 35, and just regular banked type turn like what I'm about to take, it immediately touched down. Let's see if this bike does the same thing. Try to get my speed up a smidge here. Didn't touch down. Normally I would be touching down at 35 miles an hour just like that. So this is not touching down. There we go. Still does it. So touch down a little bit there at about 33, 34. It just depends on the angle, so you don't get very much still. But it seems to be that the bike holds its presence better in the turn. Alrighty, test my bump here. See how the suspension is. Now this one I can preload right off the bat, so there you go. I didn't even get thrown off the seat or nothing. It just kind of took it nicely. So like I said, I could preload this one. There's still some shaking in the front end, but that's because of the traditional fork versus inverted, but not terrible. I definitely have to admit that this bike is more alive than its original counterpart. You can definitely scoot around a little bit better, but you still have a very low lean angle tolerance. You're still going to drag pretty quickly in any turn, in right or left. It does have some great pull though. Let's check out the brakes here now. Just want to dive it in faster, and I know I better not. Ooh, well, analog brakes, but I locked the back wheel up with the back brake. Hey, I finally found one that's got a back brake on it. I know you're not supposed to lock it up with ABS, but this one actually gets her down. Oh yeah, much more responsive rear brake, much more. Woo! I definitely love the way these engines pull. Oh man, I wish I could play a little bit more. You need a drag strip. But they definitely have a good pull to them. Now the seat is definitely more comfortable than the previous generation. And I've noticed that about most of these Softail seats. They kind of have a gel type feel to them. And you can just kind of sit down in there and kind of sink down into it. And it feels really good. This is basically my engine brake portion of this. And as you can tell, engine braking is excellent. This bike is very easy to get your feet to the ground because it is more narrow. It definitely is lighter. Like I said, 35 pounds lighter than its previous generation. Why do they have to be people in front of you? Alright, let's get raggedy. Ooh, just like the 114 on the Ft.Lb, I'm noting that this one's smoother than the way the 107 operates again. And it's kind of interesting to note that. It seems between the 107 variants and the 114 variants, it's a little bit smoother on the 114 versus the 107. And I don't know what that's about. They're the same engine, just slightly different configuration. Suspension's really good, actually. It's a firm suspension, but it's not as jarring. It's not as terrible. It's got more travel. You can definitely tell that assists this bike for sure. That was a pretty good bump there. Yeah, this back brake works much better than the others I've done. So I did find one that's got a good back brake on it. Glad to say that. So what is going to be the Breakout's role? Because this bike, I did it again, but this bike actually is one that really, truly is more of your city type riding bike. When you take it into the sweepers and everything, just like the previous one, it's going to rub a little bit on the ground. It's going to scare some newer riders. It's going to, you know, not get you the full enjoyment that you can out of cornering. That's one thing about it. So this bike definitely is the bar bruiser. But does it have the comfort to go long distances? Yes. If you're just going to cruise and just be a cruiser, then this bike is going to be perfect for that. It will be good for a long range out of the city if you want to go. But still, this bike here is the straight line romper that it was in previous generations. It's not particularly a bike that I would own still, but it's still a bike that would be great if you're just wanting to have a good looking, raw, stripped down, dragster looking bike that you can take around town and definitely pummel some bikes off the line. So, at any rate, this is the Rabid Hedgehog. If you have any more questions about the brand new 2018 Softail Breakout in 114 and or 107 fashion, just leave in the comments below the questions you have. Keep that shiny side up, folks, and have a good one.